pragmatically and existentially real. So those are the first two things. The third thing to realize is that life is basically made up of infinite amount of organisms consuming other organisms and ingesting and excreting energy. Now, if you look at a tree, for example, a tree loses all its leaves, and then those leaves go down to the earth and they get broken down by the earthworms and the bacteria and everything else, and then those leaves turn into soil, and then now you can plant something in there, maybe some vegetables or something, and then now those leaves are going to feed the plants. Well, then you can eat the plants, and those plants turn into you, and then you go, you excrete your waste, and maybe you do that in the woods or something. Maybe you're camping. So now that's food for all kinds of flies they're going to eat that, and then they're going to go reproduce, and then their flies are going to reproduce, and it's going to spread out. And then, maybe some sort of other bacteria and viruses and fungus are going to feed on that, and then other things are going to feed on that, and then all those things are going to reproduce, and it's going to branch out. Likewise, when you die, your body goes into the ground. Well, that doesn't stop. Life doesn't stop. Nothing actually dies because everything is just coming in to eat your body, to recycle your body. As gross as it may or may not be, all these things are coming in to eat you and recycle you and turn you into earth, turn you into dirt again. So then, you turn into dirt, a vegetable grows there, someone eats the vegetable, and the whole cycle continues. So nothing is ever really created or destroyed, which is another law of thermodynamics, which is another scientific paradigm, another scientific axiom. And it's basically just things are creating and destroying all the time, or basically things are recycling all the time. Nothing is ever really created or destroyed. So likewise, how can you say you want to live forever when in reality you always have lived forever and you always will live forever, because your physical body doesn't stop when you die. It just changes form. It just transforms. It just goes above form or beyond form into a different form. So you're already immortal. You're already going to live forever. You always have and you always will. And there's nothing you really need to do to change that. You don't need to start a spiritual discipline. You don't need to go on a caloric restriction. You don't need any of these things because it's already true. Now, that's not to say that these things aren't important, because they are, because they can enhance the quality of our life and prolong our physical experience. So they're all valuable. So those are three things we need to understand. The last thing is that it's commonly believed that, genetics is what's controlling us, that we're basically slaves to our genes. Well, in reality, modern science has figured out that this is not true, that the genes are basically just blueprints that are activated or deactivated by our thoughts, by our beliefs, and by our feelings. So if we're striving for longevity, still believing in the concept of time and death and ego, what do you think our genes are going to manifest? But if we're holding the beliefs that, time actually doesn't really exist, this ego that I'm afraid of or whatever, or clinging to, doesn't actually exist, and you hold that as your belief system, then what do you think your genes will actually express? And if you want to learn more about this concept, I would encourage you to check out the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. He's written a couple books talking about the biology of belief, talking about how the whole concept of us being slave to our genes is completely false and has, it's just an old paradigm that's just archaic and doesn't really serve us anymore. So again, just to recap, we've seen that time doesn't really exist. We've seen that this ego doesn't really exist. They're both just social conventions that we have agreed upon, that are things we use as tools. But it seems that sometimes we allow the tools to use us and own us, and obviously this creates a lot of discomfort and pain and suffering, which is just telling us that, hey, something's out of balance, something's not right. So, and then thirdly, we saw that, energy is never created or destroyed. It's just channeled and transformed, and that the physical you is never born and will never die. Well, it's always just transforming. And then lastly, we've seen that the genes are basically just blueprints. Our genetics, our hereditary disposition is just a blueprint which can be changed, modified, and influenced by our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. So those are really the four keys to real longevity. No hype, no, you know, buy this thing or go to this spa and get this crazy treatment. You know, all those things are great and they're useful tools, but they're not going to get you there. But I think these 4 things that I've just shared with you are really the keys, and they're based on ancient wisdom, ancient teachings, which people have known from the beginning of time. Beginning of time meaning since we invented it, and you know, now based on modern scientific research. So it's really covering both ends of the spectrum, both the logical and the more artistic, creative, intuitive, both the modern and as well as the ancient. So hopefully that's been enjoyable and beneficial, and hopefully it'll help you live longer right now, have more in life right now, and realize that you already were immortal and you always will be, and there's nothing you really have to do about it. So if you have any questions, of course, always email me or post a comment, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.